So I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I've been debating how to say this where I can explain upon what God is doing without making it look like we're doing anything. And God is using us, and we're so blessed to be able to be used in Thailand with what we're doing there. I've went to church for over almost 20 years with Phil, that I would have been a part of the same church as he was. We married sisters, so I got the pretty one. This is an argument we'll forever have, and it's okay. Usually publicly, I don't get as much opportunity to expound upon these things. But so God called us to Thailand. It was something that in my heart as a young person, I had been over there. I was based out of Thailand when I was 19. We were smuggling Bibles. Me and two other guys were helping me. We were smuggling Bibles into China and Vietnam and Laos back then. And I was a Christian, I guess. I believe I was. But I had God in this box. This is what a Christian looked like. And I went to China, and I'm working with Pentecostals and Baptists and Methodists and some Catholics. But we won't hold it against them. But God blew my box apart.
Yes.
Because I seen people that didn't look like what I thought a Christian was supposed to look like.
Yes.
I seen people who were on fire for God that didn't have anything. They didn't match up to what I had envisioned of what a Christian was. And God blew that apart. And when I went home, I wasn't satisfied anymore. I wasn't content with what it was. And I wanted to move back so badly. And I felt strongly that God had called me to go back there. So strong that I was texting the girl that became my wife. And I could tell you literally the place on the highway where I was when I texted her and asked if she ever thought she could live her life on the mission field. I was so scared she was going to say no. Because if it was, I knew she wasn't for me. And she sent back a message so fast, and she was just like, yes, I've always felt that God called me to that. I kept texting her. And eventually God did. He allowed us to get married, and we thought, within a couple years we'll live here. It took me 17 years to come back to Thailand. God had different plans. But when we did, I had talked to my boys, my wife, so many times about Thailand. They'd never been there, but it's like they had this love for this place they'd never been. And God really laid it on our hearts to start praying about moving there. And, I kind of joke about mission work because we're missionaries. But you know what? We're doing the same thing you're doing. We open our home to people to come. We invite our neighbors that have a restaurant or a cafe. They're Buddhist. You think they don't want to see inside of an American decorated home? Absolutely. They come marching right in. They want to see it. We're pretty convinced that people tour our home when we're in the States. I'm not sure how much they charge for admission, but I'm pretty sure that somebody's making something somewhere. They love to see inside of our home. They want to see what makes this American family go. They've never seen the likes of four boys and standing around with their dad. I mean, this is mind-boggling to them. So the reality of it is we're living life with them. We're living daily life with them. And we're doing the same thing you're doing. We're just being hospitable. We're sharing the gospel where God opens that up. I'm not standing on a street corner preaching the gospel. They wouldn't receive that well. They would listen. They wouldn't never receive it. They're very relational people. But when you invite them into their home, that opens and takes down so many barriers. We're doing the same thing. We're all missionaries where God has called us to. And I don't stand here any better than any of you because I live in Thailand. I just live in a more exotic spot, doing what God has called us to do. So you can put up that first picture there, Levi. This is my family.
Before and after, like
as you can see, I have 4 boys. They all start with B. Brandon is my oldest. Bradley, Blake, and Benson. All with B. So it's simpler for Thai people to pronounce. B1, B2, B3, they call them, they were always known as the B-boys. That's what they were known back in Colorado.
That's beautiful, brother.
So, there's a reason behind it. That's another whole story. So I'm trying to be brief, and I'm never going to do this. My wife's saying, stop getting into the details. You get too detailed, man. She's in Thailand still telling me what to do. Well, encouraging me, not telling me what to do, encouraging me what to do. I love her for it. As you can see, so one of the reasons we never went back to Thailand was because I could never fathom the idea of flying that many hours with a baby or a toddler. And it felt like every time we were like, hey, can we go to Thailand? In those 17 years, my wife we'd find out she was pregnant, or, well, the boys are just too young, or we just don't have enough money. And God has such a sense of humor, doesn't He? You can show the next picture. I got a baby. I'm pretty proud of her, by the way.
What's her name?
Her name is Brielle. Say what? B5. So, God has a sense of humor, right? My youngest boy was 9. This was totally not in the plans. And we found out my wife was pregnant as we were living in Thailand. And we laughed like 2 little kids for a long time because we just couldn't believe it. And I always wanted a little girl. So, anyway, this is Brielle. She's a blessing to us. You can show the next picture. I'm just going to kind of try to run through some things that we're doing. We were encouraged we were encouraged to spend 2 years in Thailand, not tied to anything, by two brothers that I felt were very encouraging and instrumental in my life, and I respected in their vision or mission work. They said, if you can go there and live and learn the culture and the language for 2 years, then we would encourage you to do that. And God made it possible. I still have a business in the U.S. that supports us as a family there. So I didn't have a church looking at me wondering, what are you getting done? We're giving you money and we want to see progress. We want to see salvation. We want to see people coming to the Lord. We want to see all these things, right? They're investing. We didn't have that behind us. We have a church, Phil's church, they're back home. Our home church is investing into us. They're prayerfully there for behind us. They're supporting us in that way. But we didn't have anybody that was waiting on us because of what they were doing. So we had a little bit more freedom maybe than some people do. And so we're there literally doing this. One of the prayers too of our life was that I have seen missionary kids become very bitter with their parents for taking them away from their whole life. My oldest boy was 17 when we moved over there, and I never wanted my kids to hold it against Dad that he had taken everything from them. I was worried about this. My wife and I prayed and sought the Lord in this. How do we do this? How do we do this in our boys? We want them to be with us. We want them to carry the same burden we do. And no, they probably won't never see it quite the way we do. But we want them to be alongside of us, working with us. We were doing this together as a family. And God has given us an amazing church there and fellowship there in Chiang Mai. The church is quite a bit bigger than anything I've ever been a part of. There's probably 300-400 people there on a Sunday morning. It's probably 70% Thai people or ethnic people, and 30% what we call Pharongs, anybody that's not Thai. It's literally, Farong translated from Thai is French. They call all people, foreigners, Farongs. They're French. That was because they knew the French people. That was the word for French people, and that was the closest they got to colonize back in years ago, was France. So we're there, and we're just investing everywhere we can into people. That's what we're doing for these first 2 years. Is what we feel God has called us to. So this little girl here that you see laying here, her name is Lati. We got to know her when she was about 4.5 years old. There's a children's home about an hour away from our home that has over 700 some children. We got involved with this home before we moved there, through some friends of ours. When we got to know this children's home, the first time I went there, there was less than 10 staff working at a children's home with over 700 kids.
Wow.
And over 50% of them are under 10 years old. They're raising themselves. That's what they're doing. They're doing so much of the cooking. They're doing their own cleaning, and this place was a mess. So we had gone up one evening, and this little girl had gotten dropped off there was a pickup load of children that came in, and she was just one of the children dropped off, and she was very sick. We didn't know what was wrong with her, but we were there at some friends that evening, encouraging some of the workers, the volunteers that had come up to work at the children's home. We were having dinner with them and having a Bible study and a praise and worship time. And we got a phone call. One of the girls that was the nurse, the on-duty nurse for that time, and they said, come and get this little girl. She's very sick. So she ran over to the children's home. It was a couple kilometers away, and she picked her up. She came back. This girl was listless. You could do anything to this girl, and she didn't care. She just had no expression on her face. She didn't do anything. She was just listless. We went home that night, back to Chiang Mai, and my wife was really concerned about this little girl. She had held her most of the night. And she said, I don't know if she's going to live. And I was like, really? Like, it's that bad? She said, I don't know. So we were praying about her for about 2 days, and we heard that she had really wasn't eating anymore. They couldn't even force pills down her throat. They were trying to get her to swallow pills by literal force. The doctors up there in that town said, we won't take any more children from this children's home. And my wife and I, we felt very strongly that we needed to put this little girl in a hospital. So we brought her down to Chiang Mai, and we put her in a hospital for 9 days. And the little girl that went in compared to the little girl that came out were two completely different little girls. I seen a little girl that when they stuffed a needle in her arm, didn't care, never looked. She was broken. Come to find out, the doctors are talking to us, and this 4.5-year-old girl had been sexually abused. If you understand Thailand, they don't believe much in adoption. It's terribly hard to adopt out of Thailand. They don't believe in foster care. They either sell their children, and that's an acceptable thing. It's terrible. They sell their children, or they stick them in these children's homes because they can't take care of them, or they think maybe they'll have a better life because they put them in here. So here's a little broken little girl. Nine days later, when she got out, just a different little girl, we found out that she didn't speak Thai, and she didn't speak any English, obviously. She spoke Hmong. So we were able to get a little bit through to her with Hmong. But we really prayed about taking this little girl into our home. We did not feel like God has called us to that, of taking care of children in our home at this time. And at this time, we didn't even know that my wife was going to have a baby. But this little girl became our little girl, whether we wanted her to or not. This little girl, I love this little girl. We did find out, I'm jumping way in advance here. We didn't know anything until a couple months ago. Her parents contacted the children's home. Her mom started talking to the children's home. And we were like, oh no, like we didn't even know she had a mother that knew where she was or anything. She didn't have any papers, she had nothing. Here's somebody had brought her over from Burma and put her in here, into this children's home. They wanted her back. And we have Pijin is the young girl, Thai girl that we hired to take care of Alati. We didn't put her back in the children's home. She goes to school at the children's home, but she does not stay at the children's home. And Pijin is Thai, and she was able to look up this mother's Facebook page and stuff. And it was pretty clear from what we were seeing on Facebook that she was probably a prostitute. And now she wants her daughter back. And we have no rights. We have nothing. We can't do anything. It hurts. When you invest your love into a little girl and you wonder what's going to happen. That little girl, I went with her to the border to meet her mom and her dad. There's about 5 of us that went along. We went along with translators because we were begging for them not to take this little girl back to Burma. It took us 2 days to convince them. The Lati, she was on the back of the truck. She jumped off into my arms. By the way, 10 months. This little girl speaks fluent Thai and fluent English. Thank you. One of the girls that took care of her in the hospital with us down there, she said, I was telling her how much Lati speaks to me in English because my Thai is terrible. And she was like, oh, she don't speak English. I said, oh, she totally speaks English. And this girl is fluent in Thai. She was raised in Thailand. And Abby said, no, she don't speak English, she speaks English. About that time, Lati crawled into the back of my truck with me, and she was riding with me and talking to me the whole time in English. And Abby was like, I had no idea she spoke English. Because she only speaks to her in Thai. But she's fluent in Thai, fluent in English, and this little girl is such a sweet little girl. But yes, her parents left her come back home with us. We still have her. And it's so interesting because people pray, and you guys didn't know obviously, but some of my parents' church in the U.S. had heard about this and just fasting and praying for this little girl. The power of prayer is powerful. Amen. And this little girl's still with us. And she's just, but she jumped off in my arms that night. She was scared I was going to leave. And she said, I want you to go with me. And I said, well, I have to go home. She said, but you have to come with me. I don't want to go without you. How do you say no to a little girl? Powerful. So this is an investment, right? If all I ever accomplished in Thailand was this little girl, well, I would say it was a success.
Amen.
We don't know the impact of what we will have later on, where this little girl will be 15 years from now, I don't know. But I hope that she is serving God with all her heart. That's our prayer, right? Let's go ahead and move to the next. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. God works in mysterious ways through our children, right? So I'm trying to invest into my boys. I want to get to know them better. And I have one nerdy kid. The others have pretty much been easy because they like baseballs, footballs, soccer balls. If it ends in ball, they're okay. That's all they need. They'll play pickleball and they'll beat me at everything now. I can't keep up with my older boys. And then I had a third child that likes nothing to do with balls. He likes everything to do with computers and printers and crazy things, right? Have anybody here ever heard of Free Burma Rangers other than Phil?
Yeah.
You have? Okay. So there's an organization, I'll try to be very brief with who they are. There's an organization in Thailand that is non-government organization, but the leader of the organization is David Eubank, and he is passionate about sharing the gospel. But he has been working there. His dad has been a missionary there since the 60s. He still lives there. His name is Alan Eubank. He's 96 years old. He's one of our favorite people to visit there in Thailand. I love this brother. Phil got to meet him. We love him so dearly. We go and watch football with him, and American football. We watch football with him because he's still an American enough that he loves to watch football. And he's 96, but he loves the Lord. He just feels like my grandpa. But his son, David Eubank, has started this organization called Free Burma Rangers. A lot of ex-military guys work there. They go in, they work, one of the things they try to do is film things and get the message of what is happening within Burma out to the world. So what is happening in Burma, if you don't know, there's a civil war that's been going on for over 76 years in Burma against the ethnic people. The Burmese people want the land that the ethnic people were on the hill tribes. They want them cleansed. They want them dead. That's literally, there's no making peace. There is no reconciliation between them. They just want them dead. So they kill them as fast as they can get in there with the military, but they don't have enough power to go in and literally take out all those hills. So one of the things that Free Burma Rangers was doing, and the reason I bring up my son like this, is he wanted a 3D printer. And so we had some other ideas, and I wanted to invest into my son, so I bought him this 3D printer. Free Burma Rangers found out about we had a 3D printer, and they said, hey, we are printing audio Bibles. So these things on the right are the cases that we are printing in the 3D printers. So we ended up with 2 3D printers in the end, and we're printing these Bibles. We can print about 50 to 60 a day, and we can fill this thing with the components. That one's got everything in it. And we can build that thing. It's got a solar charger on the back, and they can set it in the sun in a village. It's in their language, and we can do this for about $5. Wow. It's the cheapest we can find to do it. And Free Burma Rangers is doing them by the thousands and thousands. And they had one printer, and they were like, we can't keep up. We can't deliver these things fast enough. Do you want to get your printers going? Well, of course we do. Like, this is fun. This is what we're doing. So Blake and I are working pretty hard, and we have, I don't know how many thousand of these Bibles we've printed for them. We've actually kind of took a pause right now because they're rebuilding the actual case that we're printing. They're going to redesign it and make it into a little bit more modern, so we don't want to overbuild them because we can only get so many components at a time from China for filling these things up. So this is one of the things we're doing, to share the Word of God. And it's fun to know that these Bibles, audio Bibles, are going into Burma, and people are hearing the Word of God through this. Let's go ahead and flip to the next slide. This is called a D minor. If anybody knows what that is, you know more than I did. I didn't know what this was. A what?
A D minor.
D minor, not D minor. No, I mean, if you give me D, I'll make it D minor all by myself. Like it becomes D flat real fast. So, a demining. So in this civil war that they're having there, if you will, civil war where the government's trying to kill all the people on the Burma border, on these people, they are putting down landmines. They're about the size of a hockey puck. And they put these in the ground everywhere by the thousands and thousands. And the whole purpose is they're not trying to kill them. They want to maim them. Because if they can take one guy's leg off, it'll take 3 guys to take that guy out. Now they lost 4 guys on the battlefield. They don't care. Their purpose is terror with these people. So they'll push into a village. The people will flee. They'll sow this place with landmines. They'll booby trap their cupboards, their houses, everything. These people walk back into their house. When the military leaves, they open the door and lose 2 legs. It's terrible. And this is going on and on and on. So one of my friends, I met him through going to the gym. I know I don't look like I go to the gym, but I did. And that one time. And I met this guy. And his name is John Moss, and he has an incredible testimony for the Lord. This guy was in the military, grew up he had a horrible upbringing, and yet he just loves the Lord with all his heart. Like, this guy just loves the Lord, and he's a demolition expert for the U.S. military. Well, he retired from the military and signed up with Free Burma Rangers because he wanted to help people. And so here he is in Thailand working on all these landmines. And that was the reason we first got a printer, was we were trying to print these landmines out on a 3D printer so that they could use them for training. It didn't turn out quite like we wanted it to, but now we had a printer, so we ended up printing audio Bibles. How much better? Because people kept asking us which bomb we had in the printer. And not everybody understood that question. So God had a purpose, and John and I are sitting there one night, and he's talking about this demining he's trying to do, and it is so costly. To put it into perspective, I had to look up that you guys use hectares and not acres, because I'm used to American things, and it's Rai in Thailand. So if my understanding is 3 acres is 1.2 hectares or something like that? Does somebody else can confirm that a little bit better? Okay. So we went into a town. I didn't go personally, but John went into a town, and they demined 3 acres, 1.2 hectares, and pulled out over 400 landmines. Now, this village used to have over 3,500 people that lived in it, this town. They have sown so many landmines in this town, the military has, that there's only 21 people that live in this town right now. They can't farm because they're scared to go into their fields, they'll lose a leg. They can't live there. There's nothing. So now they're out, they can't feed their families because they can't make crops. All these things are there. Now, this is what they're dealing with. Now, my friend John went in there to this town, and he came back, and I just loved the testimonies he came back with. He sat there, and he wanted them to wear shorts, unlike Phil. You know, he was more like that guy you were talking about. They had to wear shorts. That's what he wanted them in, because he wanted to show the guys who had lost their legs. And they're walking around with homemade prosthetics, different things they've made out of bamboo, different things. So he wanted to show this in pictures. And the one guy didn't have shorts on, so John, you got to know John, he's a little wild. He's just wonderfully wild for God. And he took his pants off, and he gave him, or his shorts off, and he gave them to the guy, and he just did all the interviewing in his boxer shorts. And the Thai, I mean, these Burmese guys just thought this is hilarious. Like, this guy is worse than us. They just loved it. And they opened up. You know what? He said, they would have never shared the things they shared with me if I'd have been standing there in pants. But because I'm there in my boxers, they thought it was so funny they'd say anything. Like, they would give me all the information I wanted. But one of the testimonies he had there in this town is that God, or this man, he lost a leg. He was a soldier with the Ukrainian army, which would be the resistance group. He lost a leg. He came home, and now he finds out his farm was completely sown with landmines. But he couldn't do anything. He had to feed his family. He felt very strongly he had to feed his family. So he kept farming. And by God's grace, he farmed for a while. And one day, they heard one go off. And they ran to find him, and he was laying face down in the creek. And the landmine had blown his other leg off. He had one good leg left. Had blown his other leg off. So they grabbed this man, and they put him in a pickup, a ute. And there are utes over there too. They run Hilux and Isuzus. They put him in one of these, and they ran him through these mountain roads into Thailand to get him into the hospital. They got stopped at a checkpoint. They wouldn't let him in. They said, this man cannot come in. He doesn't have the paperwork to come to the hospital. He's bleeding to death in the back. By the time they got him back to some medical help there, he was gone. And his wife is telling John this story. And John was just, this is everything he's trying to help prevent, right? This lady's crying. And it's just, she said, life is so hard. It's so hard. I can't feed my children. I can't farm. I can't do anything. I'm scared to walk around. Life is hard. John said, he said, I didn't know what to say. He said, I'm crying. I don't know what to say. He said, so I said, the only thing I can do, he goes, do you know Jesus? He said, she brightened right up. She got all excited. She said, that's the best part. He's the only thing worth living for. She said, that's the only reason I continue on with my children. That's the only reason I have a reason to live. Everything taken from her. But Jesus is her joy. So you wonder why I say all this about landmines? Well, I love fabrication and welding work. So this gets to the real thing of why we're in Thailand. Never thought I was going to be building a deminer. But that's what I like to do. So this is actually what we're building. This is a picture I pulled off Google to try to explain it to you guys because it's not built yet. Actually, I expect within a week or so from now, I'll be headed to Laos and we're going to be building the actual attachment that goes on the front of the machine. So the Chinese give most of the munitions and military power to the Burmese because over 60% of China's raw resources come from Myanmar, which is Burma. And so China supports them with military equipment and things. So we had China build the track machine, the machine part. We're going to build the head. We can not tell China why we were building, but we could. They built the machine. They have no idea we're using this machine to defeat their military equipment. And it kind of makes me feel good as an American, like. So that thing's coming. It's actually in Laos now. And I have a friend who has a fabrication welding shop in Vientiane, Laos. His name is Justin. And he's training, through his fabrication business, he's training up house church pastors. He's giving them a job, and he's sitting there with these guys day after day, teaching them a trade, but teaching them how to be pastors in these house churches. So I had enlisted him. I took some of the Free Burma Rangers guys over there to Vientiane with me, and we figured out how to build this machine. And hopefully here in the next couple months we'll have this thing in Burma, and I hope I don't hit too big a bomb when I'm running this thing. I hope none of the Burmese guys do either, but we're going to try to run this. So it has chains on the front, and what it does is those chains hit the ground and they turn up about an inch or two of soil, which then obviously creates the landmine to go off. So we're hoping we can clear, and this village I was talking about is where the first place we're going to go with this machine. And we're going to be working there and starting to demine this and hopefully get these people to where they can actually go back to their farms and hopefully get 3,500 people back home where they can live. So the purpose we're in Thailand for, these children's homes that I talked about, what happens is these children's homes take care of these kids until they're about 17, 18 years old. Especially the boys get pushed out. There's no longer a place for them. They are too old, but they haven't been taught really anything. They haven't been taught about Jesus really. If they were in a Christian children's home, they might have a nominal idea of who God is. But true discipleship and plugging into God's Word is not really something that they're probably been exposed to. There's too many. There's not enough people there to do this. So they end up going back to their villages where they came from usually, or something. They're an uncle or a grandparent or somewhere. They have a contact, so they go back to these villages. And what they end up doing is repeating steps 1 through 3. And 20 or 10 years later, a couple years later, we have 3 more kids at the nursing home. At the children's homes. So it's just an ongoing problem that's only multiplying. And I'm a very hands-on kind of guy. I'm not a preacher. But I love working with my hands, and I love working with young people. And we prayed about this a lot, and we really felt like God was calling us to do something where we could invest and disciple these young men. So our goal is to start a fabrication welding shop there this fall. And we will be working with young boys who are aging out of these children's homes, and we're going to be teaching them how to weld and fabricate. We're going to be discipling them, teaching them the gospel, sharing the gospel with them, teaching them how to run a budget, how to manage their money. You know what the greatest thing I look forward to showing them? What a godly home looks like. Can they see me working with my boys and desire that? Can they see what God is doing? See, a visual. See, these pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? I could have talked for an hour and you still probably wouldn't have came up with what I just showed you on a picture. The same thing happens when we show them what God is doing within us without even speaking. So that's my goal. That's our goal as a family, is to work there with metal. And yes, if these are successful, we'll be building more of these. And it's exciting to be able to see God use different things like this. I don't know exactly what it all looks like. There's a few verses that have become something I've understood a little bit more than I ever used to. It's John chapter 3. I'll read a couple of verses here. In John chapter 3, starting verse 5, Jesus answered, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I said to you, you must be born again." This is really where I want you to focus on. It says, "The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit." You've heard Phil sharing this weekend. And I sit here and I cry because I've been on so much of this journey and watched Phil for so much of this. And I see it from a different perspective than I know any of you else are looking at him from. Phil's made mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've followed Phil where I shouldn't have followed him probably sometimes. But if we are not, and I say this because I see Phil has exercised this in his life, we don't look at a leader and say, he changed his mind. Well, he said this, and he had this rule at this time in his life, but now he's doing this. If it's not sin, if it's sin, then we got a whole other problem to work with. The Spirit blows us, and we change. It doesn't mean that we don't keep our focus on Jesus Christ. That is our focus. We change directions as God takes us. This is why it was good to move to Thailand for 2 years, because I had this idea of what I wanted, of exactly this fabrication shop I was going to build, how I was going to run it, how I was going to do it. God changes that. What I shared with brothers 2 years ago isn't quite how I see it anymore. We have to be willing to change as God shows us more. And yeah, don't hold it against your leaders if they change as God shows them more and he takes them to places. So this is what God is doing in our lives, and this is what God is using us. We're open in Thailand. We clean people's backyards. We do things, they're like, oh, he's got a crew. You know, he's got 4 boys. He can clean up things fast. And we do. We love it. We get to just serve people. For the first time in my life, I'm not busy working. I get to live life with my family like I've never gotten to live life with my family and my boys. I get to wake up in the same house with them at the same time. I get to go to bed. Well, I don't get to go to bed as early as they do. I have to work mostly at night. So they go to bed a couple hours before I do. But what a blessing I have. God has deepened our relationships as a family. We're just being used. We're just empty. That's why I say we're not. If you call missionaries yourself, if you call me a missionary, call yourself a missionary. We're just living life in Thailand, doing the same thing God called us to do in the U.S. when we live there. Be a testimony, be a light. Share the gospel wherever you go. Open up yourself. When you open up your home, you open up yourself and you show them who you are. See, they'll come in and they'll see it really fast. Who is this guy? Oh, he barks at his boys. Okay. Not barks, yells. He gets upset with them. But how is this? Or does he speak to them in love? Does he have a relationship? Or is he a God standing over them with a stick? They're all watching. They watch us so close. So closely. It scares me sometimes. It really does. So, we live life, but you're doing the same thing here. Keep doing it. And now, you have no excuse not to come to Thailand because I'm going to invite you. If you're ever in the vicinity, come and look us up. We'd love to host you guys. We'd love to show you what God is doing in that part of the world. And the food is amazing, by the way. They don't have Aussie pie. How'd you say it? No. Huh?
Aussie pies.
Aussie pies or Aussie pies. How do you say it?
Aussie pies.
Aussie pies. They don't have pie. But they have amazing food, and God is working. I believe God is going to do a great revival in Thailand. Amen. I really do. I believe He's preparing a way forward. We're just investing. I want to be part of that seed that's planted. I want to be part of the ones. Yes, we're planting seed on rocky ground and unfertile soil, but I'm going to keep planting. And if it's one little girl, it's one little girl. But yeah, just stay true. Pursue God with all your hearts. I know you guys are. It's just a blessing to be here, to sing with you, to worship with you, and I've just been so blessed. The conversations and stuff, it's been so encouraging to me. It really has. And I told my wife, I wish you were here with me. She said, well, I knew you were going to say that. Like, I knew you were going to say that as soon as you left. And Lord willing, maybe the baby will travel a little easier next year. Maybe we can all join you. Amen. I would love to bring my family here and introduce you to them and introduce all of you to her. I know my wife would be so blessed with it. And yeah, thank you guys. God bless you.